Okay. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Imagine turning on your laptop, brewing your morning coffee, and sitting down to check your email, only to discover that someone halfway across the world has been snooping through your personal information overnight. No, it's not a plot from a spy movie. It's a real threat the FBI has recently warned us about. Hackers directed by Chinese cyber efforts are now targeting the very gateway to our digital lives, our home internet routers. In today's episode, we're diving deep into this invisible war over our internet, unraveling how our home networks become battlegrounds, and most importantly, how you can fortify your digital fortress against these unseen invaders. Welcome to Safe at Home, guarding your internet against cyber spies. I'm Felipe, and I'm here with my colleague Luis. Thank you so much for joining us again. These real world threats are becoming more and more real and more sophisticated as time goes by. I know, Lewis, you're constantly looking at these news, uh, everything that's becoming on the news. It's either a cyber threat or politics.
That's it's everything is very interconnected now. You see political, commentary always mixed with cyber now. So China adversary, cyber. So that's kind of like what we're talking about today. You know, in 2024, things are just moving quick.
Yeah, and especially I know we've mentioned in the past with AI, it makes it more difficult for us to even detect and monitor these threats as it becomes more sophisticated than ever. That's why it's imperative to always constantly be updating and patching and stuff. But basically, what we would like to share today is some headlines that made it this week, important headlines that now not only are they attacking or targeting businesses, now it's overlapping into your home environments. That's why it's so imperative to secure not only your iPhone and your personal machines, but your home infrastructure. Your home also has IoT devices, your Nest thermostat, any printers, anything that's connected to the internet is a potential threat to your daily or digital footprint. Um, so here I'm basically sharing an article uh, from the FBI, basically stating that Chinese, they're warning us basically that Chinese hackers are targeting specific routers, Cisco and Netgear, and what they're basically doing is installing malware on these routers and attacking critical U.S. infrastructures, such as water plants, electrical grid, oil and pipelines. But they're using, these home routers as jump posts to get to U.S. Critical infrastructures. Um, this is nothing new. Several years ago, hackers also hacked our Florida water plant. They were actually able to make some changes to the chemicals. They altered the chemicals. However, the personnel seems like they caught it on time, and they were able to revert back. But they were using very antiquated machines. I believe it was Windows 7 machines, but they were able to go through an application called TeamViewer, which was basically exposed to the internet. And that's how the hackers were able to penetrate into the water plant. But that they're doing the same relevant tactics, getting into that happened to the water plant, getting into home routers as well. Something to note: if you're not updating these routers constantly, you're susceptible to attacks. So some great steps to account for are installing routine updates, um, just checking if there's any patches, anything like that. Remove remote access. That typically, Lewis is, I think, going to show us in a minute. Some threats basically in the U.S. that are exposed to the internet and just simple applications. But that basically removing remote access closes that port from being exposed to the outside world. But this is just one article of many that it won't be the last. Something to account for. Anything you want to add to that, Lewis?
Yeah, definitely. So in this case, as recent as January 2024, end of January, what Felipe is mentioning there, it's this FBI had I believe, a congressional hearing where were kind of talking further on this threat from China. So this is nothing new, but it's becoming more focused. They're seeing persistent threats. So in this case, they're using a botnet. So like what Felipe mentioned, they're essentially hacking consumer, like you and I, their home routers, etc., so that they can essentially build up their arms, right? So if they can hack into your mom's home router, your home router, etc., and just be dormant, loading their weapon basically for an attack on critical infrastructure, then that's going to be a lot harder to detect where it comes from, because now it's not just saying, oh, those are connections coming from China. No, those are connections coming from Felipe's house. Those are coming from John Smith's house. And think about trying to detect who's the source behind all that when there's, a massive attack. It's very hard. So these state actors are covering their tracks by infecting these home devices.
And just think about it too, like hackers were targeting businesses, just because they probably have more disposable income to extort them for money. But now there's more people than actual businesses. So what does that equate to? The more accessibility they have to get into these home routers, to get into other infrastructures within the U.S. Not only critical U.S. infrastructures, but now businesses. Now they're
Exactly.
using these jump posts, abuela's home, to get into any other business, much easier.
And these threat actors could be, their focus could be U.S. infrastructure, but along the way, they're like, you know what? See, I see all these other easy, low hanging fruit businesses. Let me just sell these list of businesses on the dark web and make a profit on the side. If putting on the black hat right here, I would think that if I'm seeing all these vulnerabilities, I would just go to the dark web and say, hey, look, my focus is not this, but I'll make some money off you. Uh, uh, you take on the attack. So people on the dark web are constantly selling, password dumps, IP lists, vulnerabilities. They're constantly selling each other ways to make
Yeah,
money off.
information on how to build a better story on their end,
Right.
and be able to attack further have information to attack, people, businesses, etc. And I think one takeaway is, if you have any Cisco or Netgear devices, either and especially if they're more than 10 years old, rip and replace it. At very
Right.
very minimum, check if they have firmware updates, patch it, close these ports, and just make sure, basically you further protect yourselves and your digital life.
Exactly. Like as mentioned in this article, these Chinese threat actors were that's basically interacting with 3,000 different IP addresses, but what the FBI was able to detect, right? Because ultimately, We don't know if the FBI has a full scope as to what these threat actors are seeing. This is what they know. So you're seeing common devices like Felipe mentioned, Netgear ProSafe, and even IP cameras access. So just to show you how easy it is, for a threat actor to understand what's going on and look for things to exploit. There's essentially a website called Shodan that kind of acts like a Google search for a hacker or any security analyst. They can simply just type in, a manufacturer, Nike, just like how you and I would maybe search for DIY stuff. Hey, how do I put something together? They're like, oh, how do I put together a hack? So in this case, they can say, okay, let me go to Shodan or any other similar website like that and look for devices exposed on the internet. And this is more, beginner stuff. The real threat actors have their own services where they're constantly scanning devices on the internet and getting the
So
threats.
this
But
website you're presenting now is basically it's showing Netgear specifically
yeah,
the how it's exposed to the internet.
correct.
So basically, anyone can just type in an IP
Netgear,
address with that port 8443, and they basically can access this router. Um, Same thing with Cisco and Hikvision. Hikvision's, if
Cisco.
for those of you that don't are unfamiliar with this product, Hikvision is one of the most common, or used to be one of those common cameras, NVRs for businesses, just because of the price point and usability. But look at this one. He's showing Cisco now, but look, if you want to pull up Hikvision,
Oh yeah, Hikvision. Let me pull this up. So Hikvision is a camera brand that a lot of businesses use. It's Chinese based. Most U.S. Government entities banned Hikvision, but a lot of businesses use them. And as you can see, this is accessible. This is someone's Hikvision NVR camera that's running in Mexico, Romania, Greece, Athens, and in this case, a threat actor can narrow in and say, okay, well, I got 300,000 Hikvision devices in the U.S. Let me see what I can tap into there. And not only is this just exposing the Hikvision cameras, but you got to think if you're able to exploit the camera, you're able to get into the network. So all it takes is you to break through the side window of your house to get inside the house. So even though it's not your main door, people can still get inside your house through
so
your
wait,
window.
Lewis, is what you're showing here? Are these the actual IP addresses that are exposed?
Yes.
So look how easy it is. A simple search. We have tons of IP addresses, and then now what hackers, threat actors do is just try to brute force password, and most times it's just like admin or etc. So look how easy it is to get into a Hikvision, a Cisco, a Netgear. A simple website can detect that.
And it's just a matter of putting together this with exploit. So exploit frameworks are there as well. So if you don't have to be too technical either. Now it's just a matter of going to Chat GPT and saying, hey, I found this IP address. This is running this. Can you tell me an exploit for it? You might have to word it in a way where it gets over those little humps of, oh, I'm not allowed to tell you how to exploit. But a lot of these AI tools, believe it or not, they're easy to circumvent for those protections. So these threat actors are are making their lives super easy with AI. And 2024, I believe, is going to be the most chaotic year to date when it comes to cyber threats.
Oh yeah.
So if you're a business or someone who has a private network that they want to protect, my recommendations and Felipe's as well and the function team here is make sure you know what you have. So first step is inventory. Know what you have so you can tell what you need to do with it. So we say this constantly, but if you don't know you have a Netgear Pro Safe somewhere come broadcasting out, then how are you going to protect it? So start understanding what you have, and if you need help, talk to someone who's technical, uh, either an MSP like function or the trusted IT guru in your family. A business can definitely work with an MSP like us to get that done.
Absolutely. Great advice, Louis. And that wraps up today's journey through the digital landscape, where we've armed you with the knowledge and tools to keep your home network safe from prying eyes. Remember, in the ever evolving world of cybersecurity, stay informed is your best defense. Keep your shields up, your passwords strong, and never underestimate the power of updating your devices. Because in the fight against cyber spies, every step you take towards securing your digital doorstep makes a world of difference. Thanks for turning into safe at home. Stay vigilant, stay secure. We'll catch up you on the next wave of the digital revolution. Thank you so much.